Hey there, Mama B here. Welcome to my channel, Non-Polarity. What I'd like to discuss today, let's hit the ground running with something nice and controversial. Should white people be giving black people advice? Bitch, please. I wouldn't be surprised if that is your first reaction. So, it's a controversial issue, and my channel is called Non-Polarity. So, what I want to do is discuss a heavily polar issue and try to bring perspectives to the center. That's that non-polarity area. And we can get there together. This is something we need to discuss. This is obviously a big issue in America today. And enough people are suffering. They've been suffering. We know this. We need to talk about this. We need to work on this together so that the suffering, we can stop it within as much is possible in reality. So, what's the answer? Should white people be giving black people advice? No. So, I've never been black, and I never will be black. So I can never truly empathize with someone who is black, with someone who grew up being black, with someone who is a man in this world, black man in America, who is a white woman, or I'm sorry, a black woman in America. I can't empathize. I never will be able to, unfortunately. And I mean that in the sense that I want to help you. I can't help you from that angle. Okay. So, the hardest person to reach and try to help is going to be the black man because I'm a woman, okay? So that's one thing. But let's see, where could I connect? I'm a woman, so I can connect to a woman who's black in that we're women. And I'd really love to extend that to my mama bees out there, my black mama bees, who are trying to raise young men in America. This is where there's definitely still differences. Gosh, the biggest challenge for us is that racial bias, when we're talking black and white, I don't believe it's ever going to go away. It's not theoretically possible right now. And here's why. Probably the only person in humanity, within our species right now, that could truly, honestly weigh in on a situation between two people, when you have someone who's white, someone's black, is a blind person. Fully blind. Even a colorblind person can see that contrast between black and white. What's the issue? Like, why does it matter? Oh, we shouldn't see color. Well, unless we're blind, we see it. And therein lies the problem. I believe, and this is again my perspective, my opinion, I believe that fear is rooted in the unknown. So I'm a white person. To see a black person, I do not know what the world is like in your skin, and I never will, unless I am, Hindu belief reborn inside of a black person's body, So, that's tough. And what that creates for everyone is if you don't know something, it is something rooted within our survival instincts. If I don't know something, I hesitate. Look at every animal out there. We're animals. Okay, we are. If you observe animals, you observe each other. Anytime you see a child or an adult, a cat, a dog, a horse especially, because they're very sensitive, if they are confronted with something they've never seen before, or they don't know what it is, they hesitate. And at that point, if there's no existing experience to handle that situation, often the next step is fear, and that's where things tend to spiral out of control. Now, those of us who have grown up knowing people who are black, who have grown up seeing their hearts before we see their skin, in that moment, we can go to understanding before we go to fear, you know, and that's probably the best we can do. We can never really get rid of that initial like hesitation, almost fear response, because we don't know, you know, and that's unfortunate, but it's reality. It's part of it's burned into our survival instincts. This is going to be hard to shake, people. So let's work on this, okay? Let's acknowledge that it might not go away entirely, but we can work on that after that instant of hesitation. We can work on going towards the direction of understanding and be far less likely as a population, a species together, avoid going to that fear direction. So there's that. And for now, we're so far. I mean, we've made progress, you know, but we've got a ways to go. So Black women raising babies, God, that's tough, you know. You have your struggles. I feel for you there. As a mother, I feel for you there. As a woman, with our ups and downs and floods of emotions, I feel for you there. So, gosh, what can I do? Well, as a mother, okay, I can speak about how I approach child rearing right now. I mean, my kids are young. I've got a ways to go yet. Thinking about it before they get into those raging hormone levels. My kids are all under the age of 10. What's important about that is if you have any experience in bioethics and any experience in child development, the development in a child's brain between ages 10 and 12, I'm pretty positive on those ages, that age range. Before ages 10 and 12, it ranges for people. They don't have a sense of morality. Morality doesn't exist until that point. It just hasn't developed yet. So that's why it's on us to establish that. So that's what I'm working on right now. Working very hard on that moral compass, hoping it's pointing in the right direction. I do have a ways to go on that. So one thing that I'm starting to think about more as my oldest, who is a man, he's going to be a man, he's a young man, is how do I raise him right? How do I raise him to be a decent human being in this world where we have this bias, this unavoidable bias, so that he can be good to people, everyone of every color, and he can respect himself. And here's the tricky thing about being white, about being a white man, raising a white man. In America, a white male is not allowed to suffer because he is privileged. This is a new thing I've been chewing on. It's an interesting concept. I'm kind of buying into it. It's becoming more and more real as I study ways to raise my sons. I have two. Kind of sucks, you know, because living sucks. It's hard. It is hard, this thing we call life. It's not easy. So, you know, what do I do about that? If this is true, okay, so this is, I'm hearing this a lot more, and I'm sort of seeing it more when I can talk to people. You know, because anytime you have, you know, the different things where we are at, can bring up some issues like if, and we've seen it with friends who have older adult males, where they apply for a prestigious college, for example, and universities now have to meet a quota. And this, again, is a tough issue, right? We want to have a fair advantage for everyone. So we put in place these quotas, okay? We have buckets we need to fill. We have the white bucket, we have the Asian bucket, we have the black bucket, we have the Hispanic bucket, you know, and it's not a bad idea. You know, this is how we get people a chance who didn't have a chance before. So what's the problem? Well, it does happen, and this is hard. It does happen that something as simple, you take GPA or SAT scores. It does happen. And there's proof, both experience and in the news, that you have had instances where a black man with 1 GPA and grade scores that were excellent. I mean, he worked hard. He probably struggled to get these grades. Then you have another white man, so that was a black man, and you have a white man who has higher scores, maybe by a point, but a little higher. But the black man gets in because the university needs to meet their quota. I mean, a black mom, his black mom says to that white family, tough shit. My boy's in there. That's great. I'm glad. I'm happy. But like, if it was my son, I could say, look, you know what? Tough. I kind of say the same thing. Tough shit. It's these things happen. But what's happening, what I'm seeing in communication is that some people are getting angry. White families are getting, white men are getting irritated. He took my place. It stinks, man, because we're trying to be fair, but we're still kind of creating a war, So what do? All right, so that's happening right now. It's happening. We're going to deal with it. I say we deal with it optimistically. As a white woman, a white mother, I would say that to my son. I'd say, tough luck. Your score should have been higher. I don't know. You can't be black. So we deal with it. You deal with failure. It's failure in a way. I mean, there could have been another way to go about it. Maybe you should have applied sooner. get his number in there before the white quota was filled. But there's all these different ways to look at it. The biggest mentality, though, that I'm going to teach my sons is anti-victim mentality. And I feel very strongly about this. And this is where I want to give other mothers this advice. And I hope that my black mama bees out there hear this too. You don't have to take it. I mean, I'm sharing advice as a mom to another mom. It's up to you, because again, like I said, I can't know really what you're going through to raise that boy. But I suggest this anti-victim mentality. Just chew on it. Even if you don't adopt it, just chew on it for a little bit. And here's why. So going back to, as a white man, my boys cannot suffer. As a human being on planet Earth, do you think that's really possible? That they cannot suffer? I mean, it's wild. Suffering is every day. It's part of life. It's how we feel alive. It's how we know when we're not in pain. When you're in pain and then you finally, take that Tylenol or, the wound heals, then you realize you're not in pain anymore because you were in pain. So you kind of need that contrast. So they're going to suffer, So how do they deal with that? Because, they talk about their suffering. They're not being tough enough. They're not being men. Men have to be tough. You could say, well, embrace your soft side, sweetheart. In some ways, that is good. We do want our men to have that nice soft core, to be compassionate. Oh, we want them to be compassionate. But it's a tough world. We can't have them be all soft. And this is hard because I want my babies to love. I want my babies to be compassionate. I want them to be good people. But I don't want them crushed. You're not crushing my baby. So, how am I going to do that? Anti-victim mentality. So if they can't suffer, they can't feel victimized by that situation either. And it's a societal imposition, probably the best way to describe it, a societal imposition, an imposition created by society. It's not real. It's what our society's imposed on them. I'm talking about my boys, my white sons. So how do we deal with this societal imposition? Ignore it. You don't have to acknowledge that shit. I mean, that's part of the funny thing with this all. It's a shame. Some of these impositions on society are absolutely necessary. The respect factor, oh, hell yes. You cannot ignore that. Absolutely not. Never ignore the respect aspect. You should respect every person you encounter and give them a smile. It's the least you can do. But some of these impositions are ridiculous. my boys, they're going to suffer. Like yes, you can suffer, baby. Get upstairs, shed some tears, shed your weakness, and come out of that room stronger, you know? And I think I bring this up because sometimes you hear these things about, our men and women in our African American communities with our dark skin, black skin, unavoidable. You see it. Talking about, my ancestors suffered. My ancestors were oppressed. I am oppressed. I'm oppressed because of this. I'm oppressed because of that. I'm not denying your suffering. Just saying, why choose that? Why choose to feel oppressed? You are only oppressed by your oppressors if you admit to it. I could be oppressed. I have had many experiences where I could have chosen to feel like a victim. I don't know, it felt uncomfortable. It slowed me down. I'm all about the progress of our species, and I feel like admitting to these impositions that society has placed where we allow ourselves to feel oppressed is just slowing us down. We need to make some progress here. We need to shed that shit, white and black, and everyone on that spectrum. I mean, it's a spectrum, So that's how I'm raising my babies. My black mama bees out there, think about it. It makes your boys stronger. If they have to take on those burdens and choose to be the victors and not the victims, take strength. And think if they learn to do that, if they learn to take a justifiable situation where they should feel like a victim, I'm not saying it's not justified, but imagine we teach our boys when they're in situations where they have sort of every right to feel like a victim, but they choose not to be. It's very empowering. I've done it myself. In my situations I've been in where I could have been a victim, I chose not to be. And I wanted to share this because it's a very empowering experience. It's your little F you to the world and writing your own destiny. That's where it starts, and it's definitely a dig deeper kind of moment. You have to shed some tears. You have to admit to your own humility. Feel humble. Feel silly. Feel ashamed. Feel angry. Feel furious. You have to go through all that, sure, justified emotions. But to realize that you have a choice. You have a choice in how you think. You have a choice in how you feel. You have a choice in how you perceive the world. That's the trick. It's all about perception. Your perception is your choice in how you choose to view the world. It's how you choose to view your position. It's how you choose to view how empowered you are. Every one of you out there, you're amazing. You are amazing. Mama bees, my black mama bees, your babies, boys and girls, and my black men. Again, I can't really emphasize with you, but being a mom, feeling that love I feel for my sons. I know your mama felt that, or your grandmama. Somebody in your life, a woman in your life who loved you very much as you were a child. I know they loved you, and I know they wanted you to feel awesome. So I can empathize with that. And that's why I'm saying something. Because you deserve to feel empowered just as much as my babies are hopefully going to be if I'm successful. So I share that with you with an optimistic lens. It's a controversial issue we need to talk about. My perspective and my view is not the only one. I'm not saying I'm an authority. I'm not saying take my advice, you must take it, it'll solve all your problems. No. But what will help us start to solve our problems is by talking about this together and realizing our limitations in our perspectives and realizing where we can connect in our perspectives and hopefully adopting that dream, going back to my John Livingston Seagull, reading about him yesterday or the other day, that dream that we can be amazing. We can fly over all adversity if we all decide to be victors. You can do it. Let's do it.